Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe.
Hey guys, this is Britt from Pure Athlete. Thanks for joining us for this week's podcast episode. I want to tell you a little bit about it before we jump in. You know, this past weekend, we filmed our first ever live audience event right down the road in Peachtree Corners, Georgia. We had about 1,000 people in the audience and we had a great time. We actually ended up filming 2 podcast episodes at that event, and the one you're about to hear was one of the segments we filmed. In that segment, Jeff and Brad and I simply talk a little bit about the Pure Athlete story. We talk about a couple of really key topics, and then we answer some questions that came from parents and coaches in our audience. Next week, we're going to release the next part of the live audience event with an incredible guest, one of baseball's best young hitters. I'm not going to say any more about that. You'll learn more about it next week. But for now, hope you enjoy this segment. Thanks for listening.
Well, we're going to start episode 2 here, and I hope you enjoyed with Matt. I thought it was great. I thought he was very to the point with a lot of stuff and had a lot of great points. So I hope you were listening. And parents too, and coaches. But I want to spend a minute here before we kind of get into a couple topics that we want to talk about, having Britt and Brad kind of explain how the heck Pure Athlete even got started.
So, I guess it was maybe 8 years ago, something like that. Britt and I were just, sports parents like you guys, and have 6 kids and 2 boys who played sports. And about this time, we started having lunch at Twisted Taco, the late Twisted Taco. And we get together about once a month, and we just started sharing our stories with each other, and just like, gosh, I don't know what to do. I'm driving up to Lake Point every weekend. He's going to tennis tournaments down in Macon. And, a lot of the advice you get when you're going through this journey is your folks who are kind of going through it with you, and they really don't have any more wisdom than you do. And so we kind of said, gosh, I wish there was a platform. I wish there was folks who could mentor us as dads and moms on how to navigate this crazy journey. And it's only gotten crazier in the last 8 years. Because really what I know y'all's goals are, and our goals for our kids is we love them to be Matt Olson or Jeff Francoeur, but 1% of high school athletes end up playing in college. And so you want to make this journey as fulfilling as possible, as enjoyable as possible, but also launch them into life as better human beings and better leaders and better parents. And so that was kind of how it got started. We were like, gosh, I wish we looked online, we looked for podcasts, and we really just couldn't find anything. And then Britt came up with the idea of Pure Athlete, the name, and it stands for role models. And what we want our kids to emulate. We want our kids to look at Matt Olson. We like if they're out there in the arena, we want them to carry themselves like a Jeff Francoeur or Matt Olson.
Yeah, I think simply, if you're a parent, you wear a ton of hats when your kids are playing sports, and especially if they're really into it. I mean, you're a chauffeur, you're a banker, you're a manager, you're a sports psychologist, and on and on and on and on. And if you're like most of us, you want to wear those hats well. And it's hard. And I know, in my journey with my kids, I wanted to help them achieve their goals and achieve their dreams, but I also wanted to achieve my goals as a parent, which was to raise quality people, not just to raise quality athletes. And I know, the fact that you're here tonight means that that's probably your goal too, is we realize that, as Brad said, not many kids are going to ever earn a penny playing sports, and we want them to have great experiences, and we want them to pursue their dreams, because some of those kids are going to make it, but we want them to do it the right way. And so again, that's what really Pure Athlete is all about. And we're just been doing it, a little over a year, and having a blast. And I'll tell you, my sports journey is over, as I said. I would give anything to have known what I know now over the past year, talking to pro athletes about their stories, and also experts. We've had a lot of experts come on and share things with us. And so I feel like I did it okay, but there's still a lot of things that I would have done a little bit different. had I known what I did do now.
So when we had the idea to launch this, we're like, yeah, we have a lot of wisdom. We've made a lot of mistakes, and maybe folks would want to listen to us talk about those those stories, but we kind of probably need to get somebody who they really would want to listen to. And so we tossed around a couple names, and like I said, we said, who is someone that really exemplifies what a pure athlete is? And so from friends of some friends, we got connected to Jeff. We talked him into meeting us at the Chick-fil-A over there in Suwanee, and you want to take it from here?
Yeah, I got free Chick-fil-A, which is great. But
We wined and dined him.
Yeah, big time expense account, yes.
I met Britt. I did a speaking engagement for a company that he was involved with, and we actually met at Chick-fil-A the first time, and we were supposed to be talking about that. We ended up talking about youth sports for an hour, and, I was telling him all about coaching my kids. I think I had a couple of stories of this certain coach, and I wanted to just fight, and, the whole deal going through it, we were just kicking off ideas. And so I know they kind of got together and talked after, and we ended up meeting, I think, a week later at Chick-fil-A and had this idea. And I'll be honest with you, I went into it, I was like, you know what, maybe we interview 8, 10, 12 people. It runs its course, it's done. And it's amazing how God has had his hand in this. I mean, doors have opened. We've called athletes, we've texted coaches, and they continue to say yes, and they continue to come on and share their story. And I've got 4 kids. My wife and 2 of them are here tonight. I'm taking a step back from announcing a little bit this next year to coach them, but also this is something I truly believe in and I'm passionate about because I think I got to get my mom and dad are here tonight too, but they raised me, my sister, my brother. I think so great in the fact of how they coached us, how they pushed us, how they made us. We didn't do stuff every single night. We had to go watch. I went and watched my sister play. I had to go watch my brother play. We were going to cheer each other on, and different stuff that they did. And so I just kind of got involved with these guys, wanting to, as you said, find out the right way to do it. And here's some of these athletes that you see on TV every single day, and then you hear their story, and they're no different than any of these young girls or boys sitting in here.
So we got to stop here for just a second, because if you've listened to our podcast, you've heard Jeff tell some stories, and some really good stories from his childhood about times he might not have done it great. And he just mentioned his parents are here, and man, you guys should be up here talking, because let's give them a hand, because I love some stories about, like, your dad came home and you had mouthed off to a referee and he took you up there to apologize to him. And some of those stories are just great stories and have made lifelong impact on you. You're still talking about them.
No, it has. And that's why, I think as we're doing this, as we said, different experts, different things that we've been able to have on, has all impacted us. I mean, that's the thing. I honestly, after like 20 episodes, I went home and told my wife, I was like, if we end this tomorrow, the time we've put into this just from these athletes pouring into us and telling us different stuff has been huge. And that's why I think the more we've looked at it, like there's no outlet for parents, for coaches. And sports today has become just a billions of dollars business. And yes, there's some great things out there. There's some great organizations that have great stuff and good demographics, but there's also some that aren't. And I think it's trying to sift through this. As the question you asked Matt a little bit earlier, the guy here in the front, you asked about going to play travel ball, different stuff like that. As you get older, I think there's a time and place, but I agree with what Matt said. I think when you're 13, 14, 15, you don't want to be flying halfway across the country and spending your childhood doing this stuff. But the world and all these things are telling you to do it, right? If you don't go to this practice or you don't go to this camp, your kid's going to be left behind. And it's like, no, they're not. They're 11 years old. Like if you miss a practice, it's going to be okay. And I think that's what's great with listening to these athletes that have come on. You're not just hearing it from us, but you're hearing it from people that have done it at the highest level saying it's okay. You don't have to do these things. You don't have to go all in at the age of 12 to play sports. And I think the cool thing is even if I didn't make it, the relationship that I have with my mom and dad, no matter what, I have a sister and an older brother who have great relationships, and they weren't no different. They didn't make it to the big leagues, but at the same time, they had a great experience, and they're doing the same thing with their kids. So,
Yeah, we talk a lot, and get asked questions about what's the return on investment for a parent today, because the money's big if you're really all in. What's required of you is a lot of money. Well, what's that return on investment? And the cold hard truth is there's no financial return on investment for 99% of us. But the return on investment can be relational if you're intentional as a parent about pursuing those opportunities to get return relationally. I know for my kids, we traveled all over the Southeast playing and stuff and had a blast, and we had some frustrations and all those things that come along and some challenges, but the relationship was really strengthened and really built during those years, and I miss it, and I don't have any regrets about going through all that.
yeah, so we're going to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes before we finish up, and we want to talk about a couple topics we think are just very interesting and very relatable in today's game. And I think number one, right off the bat, is sports should be fun. You heard Matt in here talking about the locker room and joking around, and that's doing it at the big league level. He's getting paid to do it. My wife we were talking the other day, she's actually reading a book, how they talk about just sports in general today, how stressful it is. And you think about when we grew up, a lot of the parents, you did extracurricular activities, whether it was football, baseball, basketball, cheerleading, whatever, to have fun. School can be, stressful enough. And now we're not only doing that to our kids, we're making sports stressful. We're making it where it's life or death all the time. And it's like, no, this should be where you have fun. You heard Matt talk about play with your buddies and enjoy it. So I don't care what level you are at, you have to be having fun.
Yeah, we had an expert on, Dr. J, and I'm not sure if Dr. J is in the audience.
Yeah. Stand up real quick. He was awesome.
He's great. And Dr. J talked about the term free play. And I was always amazed when I'd watch my son in elementary school and middle school when I'd help teach or come work at the school, and I'd see them at recess, and there'd be 20 boys out there playing football, and they were just going at it, and they had the best time. They were reffing each other, and they were getting in fights, but they were reffing each other, but they were trying to win, and they were so competitive, and there was no adults involved. And but then the more adult, then they go to practice, and it'd be like it's regimented. It was like a business, and it was you have great coaches who make it fun, but I just like the more chance these kids, especially up to age 12 or 13, the more chance they can get to play sports, but to play it unencumbered and to play it just all out, because they're gonna play all out. That's the way God made them. Boys and girls, they want to compete and they want to win. But I just remember that term free play just really stuck with me, and let your kids and just have as much of that, whether it's skateboarding or whether it's sports. But there's plenty of time for organized sports, and there's plenty of time to get them lessons, and they do need to have that stuff. But the more time they can just actually have a blast, the more positive it's going to be.
Well, and listen, we say all the time, we're about, competing and competing hard. If you want to achieve anything in life, you have to teach your kids they have to work hard for it. That's a great life lesson from sports, but there has to be an element of fun. A lot of fun in the early years. In the later years, a lot of fun too. You got to work harder in the later years. But, if you're going through this with your kid and you're driving them and it's no fun for long periods of time, that is not going to end well. And they're not going to achieve their goals because they're going to quit, and you're not going to achieve your parenting goals either because they're going to be very frustrated.
No, I agree. And look, there's going to be tough times. There's going to be failures for the kids. They're going to strike out. They're going to miss a free throw. They're going to screw up. But it's how you recover from that, how you keep going back out there. And again, like you said, it's having fun. Fun's different for every age group, right? Like if you're coaching 7, 8-year-olds, you're going to coach them different than you coach 13 and 14. I'm coaching. We had practice for my son's 8-year-old flag football team today. It's like you get 50 minutes with those guys, and after that, it's over. They're off doing everything. So it's like you got to hurry up, right? You got to keep them interested. And so I think there's ways to do that.
Jeff Francoeur here with Pure Athlete. Before we get to today's guest, I want to share with everyone that we have our first partnership with Booster. Now, Booster is the high school sports #1 athletic fundraising for teams and groups. And their owner and CEO is a good buddy of mine, go to church with him, and a great guy. And instead of me telling you what it is, I'm going to bring him on. So Chris Carneal, thanks for joining us.
Jeff, thanks so much. So excited to sponsor Pure Athlete. Love your message, love your vision, love the heart and the values behind it. I'm a former college athlete. I'm a coach of my boys and my daughters as well, basketball and baseball. And our company I started 20 years ago, we work with schools, K through 12, and we serve them by raising funds. The past 20 years, we've raised schools, teams, and groups over $600 million, and we want to continue to serve more schools. So if you're interested in hearing how we can come to your sports team, your school, or your group, choosebooster.com.
Again, go to choosebooster.com. Chris, thanks for being a part of this. A big supporter of youth athletics, high school athletics, and we're looking forward to a good partnership with you, man.
Absolutely. Love what you guys are doing. Look forward to serving and helping schools raise funds.
Just to move on to the second topic we wanted to just touch on tonight, because all we're doing is just touching on a couple of these things. And it's this whole idea that I think David Pollack said it, John Smoltz has said it, but if your passion is greater than your kid's passion, then it's not going to end well. And so, now look, I mean, I can tell you there were times for me when my passion was greater than my kid's passion. So there may be moments of that. There are going to be moments when your kids, lose interest for a little bit of time, and you need to be attuned to that. But by and large, your kids have to own, as they get older and older, they have to own what they want to achieve in sports. And yeah, there's some examples we all know of where parents have driven them, and they've driven them all the way to the top. There's a lot of dysfunction in a lot of that as well. So I mean, you guys may want to add some thoughts on all that, but.
I mean, it's a blast when your kid has goals and your kid has a passion. It's so much fun to go through that journey with them. But when it got healthiest for me as a parent, and it was from listening to these podcasts, and it may have been Jay Billis or it may have been Pollack, has said, ultimately it's their journey. And when I kind of realized that, and you've got to give them guidance, and you've got to tell them there's a standard out there. There's a standard to play high school football here in the state of Georgia. There's a standard to play lacrosse. I mean, that's not going to go away. That's truth right there. But it's really their journey, and it has to be their journey. And you try to just help them, navigate them in the healthiest way possible. But when I realized, look, it's not my journey. It's my kid's journey. And then you become more of a fan, and you become more of a parent. And again, this is wisdom gained from mistakes. This isn't like, Britt and I are, Jeff's still, just getting into it, but
Just starting to make the mistakes.
our wisdom is not from, oh, wow, I had it all figured out. And my kids can tell you that. They're here. It's from mistakes I've made, and I'll look back and go, oh, man, I wish I'd done that differently. And then it's from hearing these great stories, and that's what this whole thing is about, stories from these really great athletes, just talking about, man, most of them, it was crazy, most of these athletes, like their parents weren't even sports people. They didn't really care about sports. And you're kind of like, gosh, is there a correlation between that or not? And so really awareness is a really key theme here. Just, be aware of how driven your kid is and how much they love that sport, and recognize that. And they may gain it as they get older. They may not going to totally lose it, but just, be aware of kind of whose journey this is.
Yeah, and I think Dan Orlovsky, we had him on, and I loved what he said. He was talking about, like, pushing your kid, right? Because at the same time, you do have to push. You do have to put them into situations and get them out there. But I love what he said. He said, push your kids in the controllables. Push them with their effort, their attitude, their being a good teammate, the things that ultimately they can't control if they play or not. They can't control, where they hit in the lineup or what matters, but they can control the effort, being a good teammate, sportsmanship, those kind of things. So I always liked that. I thought Dan has 4 kids, and I loved how he kind of talked. That's what I push my kids in, is to make sure they're out there hustling, running hard, because you can control that.
So the last thought on this subject I would leave you with is, if you're wondering, am I that parent who's too passionate about it? And usually it's the dad. Not always, but usually it's the dad. And I'll just tell you from my own experience, listen to your spouse. Your spouse will often let you know if you're too passionate. In my case, my wife, who's right over there, she was great at gently letting me know that I was a little out of balance, and sometimes it would frustrate me. But she was almost always right, and it was something that I would have to go back and pray about. Sometimes I'd have to go back and apologize to my kids about. But be a team in that if you can.
Yeah, I want to leave, before you ask questions, I want to leave some numbers here that, and Brett, you can correct me because I'm not a numbers guy, but I think it's like 60 million kids right now play youth sports, and only 7 million play high school sports. So you do the math that somewhere along the way, some of them may just find out of their interests, but I mean, gosh, to go from 60 million to 7 million, it's kind of startling that there's not a lot of kids that are continuing that journey onto high school. And so, and then obviously, gosh, the amount that go on to college is even less, and I mean, the pros is really less. But so just remember that, and I think Jay Billis talked about knowing that this should be a blast. This should be a great experience, a blast.
Yeah, and I think you're saying it right. One of the things that we continue to say, we make mistakes, man. I check myself all the time. But I think what we're all trying to get here at the end of the day is the best experience for our kids that they can possibly have. And I know I had a great experience growing up. And ultimately, you want your kid to compete. You want them to learn, because any person in here that played high school sports or did anything like that, you learned some of the most valuable lessons from those coaches and teachers that you had in high school and middle school that you carry on to today. And ultimately, we want our kids to experience that. If it happens to go above that and you get a chance to play in college, awesome. I mean, keep going. Like Matt Olson said, dream big. But let's let them have that opportunity and wanting them to continue to play. One of my buddies said, if you coach, you coach them hard, you love them hard, and you hope they sign back up next year. And I think that's a great quote. So I think we're going to spend maybe one or two questions real quick, and then we're going to wrap up here in the next 2-3 minutes because we know kids got to go to school.
And the Chiefs and Bills are playing, right?
Yeah, second half. We got to get home to see Taylor Swift in Buffalo.
Wow. I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys a question. Britt, this might be more geared towards you, but...
It's an older person question.
An older person.
It's for older people, yeah.
No. So the landscape of youth sports is changing. It's getting busier and busier, right? Kids might be missing, things on Sunday. Practices are more consistent than ever, right? Essentially, my question is, what should the non-negotiables be as a family unit as kids continue to get older and those schedules get busier and busier? How do they maintain that family dynamic?
Well, some people won't agree with me on some of this, but I'll give my opinion. Okay, so, I grew up in the era, because I am pretty old, I grew up in the era where, you had your family dinner every night and, you all came around the table and that's where you shared about your day and all that kind of stuff. And I can just tell you that that's almost impossible in today's sports climate. So what was non-negotiable for our family is that we were going to find ways to have those dinners. It might not be around our table. Sometimes it was at restaurants. But we found quality time to be together. And so that was a non-negotiable. The whole Sunday thing is really, really difficult as you get older. If you're playing on this is true even today. I didn't have to deal with this, but even at younger ages, today tournaments are rampant at younger ages, and they're always weekend tournaments, and you don't play one game, you play, 4 or 5 games on a weekend. And so it's really challenging and really difficult. Church, in our house, church was a priority, but I'm just going to be gut level honest. That doesn't mean we were there. When my boys were teenagers, we weren't there every Sunday morning because we were playing tournaments at times. So sometimes maybe I did that too much and I regret it. But the reality is if you want to play to that certain standard, there are some things that you're going to have to do, but you have to find other ways to make sure that you're shepherding your kids in the areas that you want to shepherd them in. And so we found other ways to make that a priority.
We got a really good question right here. What's the question?
How do you deal with mental strength?
What was the question?
How do you deal with mental strain?
Yes.
Gosh, how old are you?
10.
10. The fact that a 10-year-old asked that is it's you're incredibly wise, but it's also, it's kind of the world we live in now. I think again, you go back to, as a parent, recognizing if this is something that is giving your child life or if it's something that's taking it away. And I think that you have to tell, as a parent, you have to say, I value you above and beyond what you're doing. I value you because you're a sweet kid. I value you because you show great character. I value you because you had great sportsmanship when you played. And so I think the more the parent can relieve that, where the sport is everything, I think that hopefully that relieves some of the mental strain. But the world is going to continue to cause that mental strain. And so that's where you lean on, hopefully, your faith, and that Jesus is the only way that you get that true peace. And then you lean on your family as well to kind of give you that support. That's a great question, though.
That's a great question. We've got a question in the back here.
This question's for Jeff. Jeff, do you have a strong urge to suit up again when you're sitting there in the broadcasting booth? And I'm sorry you're not coming back next year because you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. I am going to do 25 games this year, so I will do some. And no, when I watch like Jacob deGrom and those guys pitch now, I'm glad I'm up top, not facing them anymore. I had my fun. Time for a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up.
All right, we got one right here.
What's your favorite baseball movie?
You guys, I would say The Natural, probably.
For me, and I know my pops is here, but Field of Dreams, when they're playing catch at the end, man, it's great.
Yeah, I'll go with both of those. Those are great ones.
We've got a question here in the back. What's your name?
Yvonne, actually, I want to say thank you for watching. I enjoy watching you at Parview, and I want to know, what made you switch from football to baseball?
What now?
When did you switch?
Thank you for making high school football popular on Friday nights, because I grew up watching you, and I was wondering, what made you switch from football to baseball?
I got drafted in the first round. They gave me a bunch of money, to be honest with you, if I need to go that route. So that made it a lot easier. No, but you know what? My whole family was in education, and actually, my mom and dad sat down with me as we thought about this, and it was like, you know what? I got drafted in the first round. Let's go for it, and if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to college. Now I'm the only one in my family without a degree.
You've done okay.
All right, looks like I got a question from a dad over here.
So it sounds like a lot of dads are involved, coaching, practicing with their kids. Can you tell how was your mom involved? Like, how did your mom help you on that journey?
Well, that's a great question because it's so true. I mean, if you go back and look at my little league thing, my mom was probably driving me to practice more than my dad was. Whether he was working or coming there, she was getting me everywhere. I remember a summer in Oklahoma for 2 weeks out there. She went with me. And so it was a lot of fun. I will tell you the only thing that my mom used to bug me about, and she's going to laugh at this when I tell it, was sometimes after like games in the big leagues, me and my dad would talk almost every night after the game. We'd just go over to the bathroom. Every once in a while, my mom would get on the phone. You just don't look right, doing this. And I'd always remember, I'd be like, Mom, just stick to Mom, okay? I don't need your hitting advice right now. But those are always fun moments. They were such a big part of it.
Hey, if you haven't, our second episode we ever did, Brad and I interviewed Jeff, and Jeff told his whole youth sports story. And there's a lot of great stories in that. Brad and I weren't very good at interviewing back in those days. We're not maybe so good now either, but it's a great episode, and you really get a lot. And he talks about his mom a lot and talks about his dad a lot, and it's really great stuff.
Last question there, little guy.
We got a question in the back.
Were you ever able to see or go to the Field of Dreams or go to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I did. I never. So that the Field of Dreams tournament at Cooperstown was not around when I was coming up at 12 years old. But I did when Chipper got inducted back in 19. We flew up there, a bunch of his teammates, and spent 2-3 days, and it was. If you've never been to Cooperstown, it's a pretty special place to go. It's awesome. And you know, wrapping up here. We thank y'all for joining us tonight, but remember this, is, like we said, for all the parents here, you know, you're the one that is in charge of kind of driving the ship with your kids. You know, ask the questions, be involved. Yes, coaches have a lot to say. Yes, your kids are going to have a lot to say, but as moms and dads, you're the one that has to continue to look out what's best for your kid. And you know your kid better than anybody else. You talked about mental health question a minute ago. You're the one that's got to have a pulse on what your kid's doing. And know. So I know for me, you're going to finish up, but thank you all for joining us tonight. It was a special night.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say 2 thank yous or 3 thank yous. One, I want to thank our families who have allowed us to do all of this, and you know, we wouldn't be doing it without your support. So thanks so much. I want to thank the church here, Jay, and your staff for opening this up, for inviting us to be here. You know, the things that you're doing to reach out to the community and have your sports programs and do it all the right way are fantastic. I know you got a lot of great programs here. So if you haven't checked this out, and come check out the church other than just this event. But thanks so much for having us. And then I just want to thank our team and the crew that's here tonight who are doing all the behind-the-scenes work to make tonight happen. So thank you guys so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.